Good morning, friends. Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're watching. Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get all things DutyRon and this guy over here, Ed Wallace, when we go live or upload another video. Today, we have a new case that we are going to be discussing. It's not new because it's over 18 days old. Rachel Morin, mother of five, an avid runner, health and fitness, went for a run, went for a walk on a local trail in Maryland on Saturday, August 5th. Never returned. Ed, this is a forensics frenzy here. It's Forensic Friday. So much information, so much to unpack. Ed, first of all, how you doing? Where are you? Let the audience know what's going on with Ed Wallace at this time.
I'm fine. I'm in Kurdistan, and I'm feeling the heat here. Somebody said I was tan. Yes, because there's no clouds where I am, and it's 117 degrees just about every day.
Yeah. Ed, everybody wants to know, are you safe in Kurdistan? What's going on there? Are there shots fired? Is everything good? Everything's secure where you are, I'm hoping?
Everything is good. Everything is good.
All right, good. Hey, so let's get the elephant out of the room. My surgery went successful on my thumb, so I can't give the thumbs up with that hand, but I could do it with this one. Little trigger release on my thumb. In a week or so, I'll get this thing cut off of me, get the stitches taken out, and I'll be good to go. Ed, I want to just dive right into this thing. So, but also before we do, let's say a thank you to our Patreon supporters, our channel members, and all the folks who positively engage in this Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace community. We appreciate you guys, the mod squad, the replay viewers, the super thanks, the super chatters, everything in between. You guys are what makes this a great place. So thank you. By a show of hands here in the chat, put a 1 if you've been following this case, put a 2 if you never heard about this case. Rachel Morin, 37 years young, a mother of 5, her life brutally taken from her by a unknown male Hispanic perpetrator. He's 5'9", 160 pounds, from arguably from that California area. We're going to dive into it. So a lot of number ones, some number twos. We're going to let the press conference roll. But Ed, I wanted to talk to you because you're a crime scene and CSI expert. In a case like this where you have a brutal murder of an individual out in the open, recovered relatively quick. Could you walk the audience through what crime scene investigators from the Maryland State Crime Lab did on this case or should have done on this case?
Well, she was found along a running path that she normally utilized for exercise, and apparently, broadcasted this information on all her social media and so forth. And again, she was brutally assaulted and found off the path in a area. So again, outdoor environment, but relatively short period of time between reported missing and found. So less a chance for environmental factors and decomp and critters and scavenging and things of that nature. You get to this body, you get to the scene, you have to understand the path. You're going to look for signs of movement on the path, footwear impressions, and then off the path, any signs of trace or what we call sign, the indigenous plant life being disturbed, any transfer of hairs and fibers onto the plants and away from the plants, soil, footwear impressions, all of these things out there off the path in the wooded areas. Then you're going to obviously you're going to document everything, photograph, sketch, take a lot of notes. You're going to obviously take temperature, environmental temperature, the ambient temperature. Then later, the medical examiner's personnel will take the body temperature and try to determine a time of death. Look at rigor mortis, liver mortis, all these things, the settling of the blood to determine if this is the position the body was in fact killed and left in, or was this a transfer position with mixed lividity? And that's where the blood will pool to the bottom of the victim's body based on gravity and so forth. If it over time it will fix, but if the body is killed one place and then let to stay there for a little bit and then move to another place, you may have, and positioned differently than the original location, you may have two sets of lividity. You'll look for that. You're going to photograph the body head to toe, toe to head, whole 9 yards, everything around there. You're going to search everything around there. You're going to search the body for hairs and fibers. You're going to search the body for bruising on the skin that may be indicative of grabbing and leaving fingerprints and DNA on the skin. You're going to use alternate light sources, infrared photography, to try to find these bruising areas, and then search them for fingerprints. Search the skin for fingerprints. Search the body and the clothing for hairs and fibers. You're going to take exemplars of her clothing so that you can document those types of fibers, because you could potentially find those fibers on the suspect due to the Card's exchange principle. You're going to take soil samples as well, especially along the path that led to the body from the fixed path of the park to where the body was deposited, and grab some soil samples there in hopes that you can find that trace evidence on the suspect as well.
Ed, I got a question for you. Would they use the Faro 3D laser scanner if it was available, if it was in the toolbox?
Absolutely, I would, 100%. I would document the whole path, and then leading to the victim and everything around the victim. All of that would be 3D laser scanned if I had access to it.
Right.
Definitely would not do otherwise.
Right.
And then getting back to the victim, you're going to bag the hands. All right. You should not try to perform any visual examination of what's underneath the fingertips in the field like this. Bag the hands with paper bags, tie the paper bags to the wrist with tape, and at a fixed medical examiner's facility, then do scrapings underneath the fingernails. I understand there was a horrific assault involved in here. Then you would want to find that murder weapon, package that up. You want to search that murder weapon for fingerprints, DNA, hairs and fibers, and things of that nature. And now we know that they in fact did DNA work, and they from in Maryland, they found the DNA profile of a male, unknown male, Hispanic, put the DNA into CODIS. Remember, CODIS stands for the Combined Offender DNA Index System. Now, there's two sets of databases in CODIS. The first database is the offender database, known perps that are in there, okay? And then there's the unidentified database from crime scenes. Well, they ran the genetic profile they obtained from the DNA material from the victim into the CODIS system. Nothing popped on the known offender database, but on the unknown crime scene database, they matched an unknown male Hispanic from a crime in Los Angeles involving a teenager in a home invasion, robbery, and assault.
Yes, in South Central Los Angeles. And that leads me to believe, Ed, and you know, as investigators, we do not have access to the case file as retired investigators, but we know for sure that, you know, when you look at this case and you see someone who committed this heinous crime in California, it was a home invasion. We don't have the particulars. They're not releasing. LAPD is not releasing the specifics, whether it was a sexual assault. They just said an assault of a 14-year-old. And now we go straight across the country into Maryland, in a remote area in Maryland. Well, not so much remote, but in a nice, quiet place in Maryland. I feel like in my spidey sense as a detective says that this guy didn't just randomly go across the country or was visiting somebody on the East Coast and then just stumbled into this young woman. I believe that he may have, and this is my belief, that he may have seen her social media presence and had some type of communication. Now, the detectives and everyone who's involved in this case, now we know FBI is involved because they need their expertise in the forensics field and all of the things that they can offer. But Ed, let's take a listen to this press conference, because this happened late last night. It was in the morning hours for you. And for me, it was getting late and I was under anesthesia during the day. So it was tough for me to go live with this. But let's take a listen to this presser, because they have a lot of information, and they give a lot of information. And if anybody knows anything, I have linked all of the emails and all of the tip line information in the description. So let's take a listen to this, and we'll jump back to you, Ed, on the forensic side.
So let's go there live now.
Hey everyone, good evening. I just want to apologize for the rescheduling. We had a lead come in at 3 o'clock that we needed to run down before we did this press conference. As of right now, that lead hasn't panned out for us, but we're still out there investigating it. So that's why we had to postpone this press conference. So first off, I just want to start off by saying thank you for coming out tonight. I'm Colonel William Davis, Chief Deputy of the Harford County Sheriff's Office. I know this briefing comes in late in the day, but last night we received critical pieces of information, and our detectives have been working throughout the night and today running down our new leads. Once the new evidence came to light, Sheriff Gaylor was adamant that we needed to inform our community as soon as possible, and that's why we're here tonight. As you know, since Saturday, August 5th, 12 days ago, the Harford County Sheriff's Office has been working around the clock to get justice for Rachel Morin and hopefully bring peace to her family. Since that first day, over 300 community tips have flooded our inboxes and emails. Her death has grabbed local, state, national, and international headlines, everyone with the same goal: find the killer and bring justice to Rachel. DNA evidence is part of nearly every modern day investigation, and in Rachel's case, DNA evidence was collected by our Forensic Services Unit. That DNA was analyzed by the Maryland State Police, and it was ran through the National CODIS system. This DNA evidence has come back as a match, tied to a home invasion and an assault of a young girl in Los Angeles this past March. Unfortunately, that suspect has not been positively identified, but he did leave behind his DNA. Based on the DNA evidence, we consider the individual in the video we obtained from the Los Angeles Police Department and that we are about to show you on our TV screens to be the person that murdered Rachel Morin on August 5th. So we're now going to show the video. And just so everyone's aware, this video, after this press conference, this video will be posted on our social media. All right, you want to play it one more time?
Ed, we're going to get into the conversation about this video, because a lot of people, as you can see in the chat, a lot of people are saying it seems like an odd video, someone being assaulted, closing the door. We're going to get into that after this, but everybody's picking apart every aspect of this thing. I'm just thankful that they have not just, someone suggested one of the victims to do a sketch or give a sketch artist, an artist rendering. We have a video of his face, and there may be more video. This is what they've released. But maybe there's a video of him entering as well, coming and knocking on that door. Maybe there's a video from neighbors' cameras or DOT cameras. We don't know, right, Ed?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's let the rest of this run, and we'll come back to you guys for every aspect of this.
Okay.
Here's a good comment right there.
When you're ready, we're going to post it on our social media. Based on our analysis of this video and witness observations, we believe the suspect to be approximately 5'9", 160 pounds, and of Hispanic descent. If you have any information about this suspect, we are asking you to please call our detectives at our tip line. And the tip line number is 410-836-7788. We've also established a dedicated tip email address, and that email address is rmtips@harfordsheriff.org. Again, that's RM as in Rachel Morin, tips@harfordsheriff.org. We want to make it clear that we believe the suspect acted alone and he doesn't represent the entire Hispanic community of Harford County, who we are now partnering with to identify this suspect. I know I can speak for the sheriff when I say we are immensely proud of this community. Our community will not be defined by this tragedy. Our community is one that will work together to get the job done and bring this suspect to justice. In the meantime, in the light of this new evidence, I urge our citizens to use caution while walking on our trails and throughout our community. Be alert, walk with a friend. Don't allow yourself to be distracted by your cell phone or headphones. And finally, if you see something that makes you feel uncomfortable or that you think is suspicious, act on those instincts and call 911. And lastly, we will continue our increased presence on the Mom Pod Trail. And now I'll open it up to questions.
Colonel, do you have any other details on what happened in Los Angeles, exactly where, or anything about what this person did there?
So when it comes to the details about Los Angeles, that's the information that the Los Angeles Police Department has, and we were just going to refer people to the Los Angeles Police Department to get those details. Only thing I can tell you was an attack on a young girl.
Any word about a possible motive? Like, was Rachel missing any money or anything like that?
So we are not going to talk about the crime scene at this time because, as I've said in previous interviews, we don't want to talk about the crime scene or what happened at the crime scene because once we catch this person, we want to make sure we got the right person. And the only people that know what happened at that crime scene when we catch the person is us and that suspect. So we're not giving any details about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Again, how did you come across, what led you to this particular suspect, this person?
So we collected DNA from our crime scene. The Maryland State Police analyzed that DNA for us, ran it through the national CODIS system, and that came back as a match to the crime that occurred in Los Angeles, where they had recovered DNA from this person that you saw in the video.
The video that we watched, tell us about it. I mean, what Los Angeles Police released it to you, but what is it? Is it at his home? Is it at the scene of a crime?
That is at a home, and that is the suspect leaving the scene of the crime there.
And that was a home invasion and assault.
Correct.
Of a little girl? Is that just
a young girl? So I'm going to leave it at a young girl. I don't want to talk about the family there, but it was a young girl in the house that got assaulted.
What does this do to the case, Colonel? You have an image now of the person you think is believed to be
correct,
responsible for this. What does that do for the case?
Well, I think now it kind of leads us down the path that we believe this was a person that Rachel probably didn't know. Maybe you could say potentially a random act of violence. And we're hoping that the community now can watch that video. And we also got still pictures that we're going to be putting out and that somebody can identify him.
Have you narrowed it down to a certain area? Do you think he could still be like somewhere on the Mont?
We don't have any clue where he could be. We don't even know if he's still in Harford County or in the state of Maryland, because obviously in March he was in California, and then here in August he was here in Maryland. So we don't know if he's still here or not.
Do you have any evidence that he was targeting people along that trail, or do you believe this was completely random?
I'd only be speculating. We do not know.
Do you think he may be armed with weapons?
Again, speculation.
You describe him, Colonel, as 5'9", 160 Hispanic male. Do we have an approximate age? Or?
Oh, yeah. We believe he's in his low to mid 20s.
Do you know do you have a date for when the Los Angeles information happened?
I'm just going to put out that it was in March. The Los Angeles Police Department knows that we're doing this press conference. So if you called them, they would probably be able to give you that information.
How rare is this to have a DNA hit from the other side of the country? And, can you talk about that whole process and how that worked?
I mean, this is the first time I've seen a hit in a case that I've been involved in that was that far away for a DNA hit. So I wouldn't say that it's unheard of, but certainly unusual.
For the record, you don't have his name?
No, that's what we're looking for.
Like where he lived or anything like that? From LA? Or?
We don't know. We know nothing more about him other than he was in LA and committed that crime in March, and he was here in August and is the murderer. We believe to be the murderer of Rachel Morin.
To follow up on that question, you identified him through DNA evidence through this database. So there's no name associated with that?
No. There's no name associated because it's just evidence from a crime that was submitted. And his DNA on it, like being arrested and getting DNA, none of that is in the system. However, we are working with, we have called the FBI, and we are working with some of their DNA experts in their crime lab to try to help us further analyze this DNA.
Without compromising the investigation, can you tell us, Rachel was found,
Correct.
and it was determined that it was a homicide.
Correct.
Was it trauma? Was she beaten? What was the nature of the homicide?
All we've said so far, and I think we're going to leave it at that, is that it was a violent attack.
What's your message to the
relationship at all between Rachel and the suspect?
Well, again, we just got this information last night. Not that we have been able to determine yet that we don't know of any relationship or that they were known to each other before this incident. So I can't really say, but right now, no.
Obviously, this is what already has the community on the edge. Right?
Absolutely.
Now, somebody out here who just murdered someone. What's your message to the community? Obviously, people are scared. Out there.
Yeah, we want our community to be vigilant. Obviously, the Mom Pa Trail has been opened since the day after Rachel was discovered. We have a very large amount of deployment on the Mom Pa Trail. We are going to continue that deployment until either this person is caught or we believe he's not in the area anymore. But our plan is to be vigilant for our community. Our community has been just tremendous with the support they give us and trying to figure out what's going on and calling in tips. And we're hoping that maybe even people from LA will see this interview and see that this person committed that crime there, and maybe somebody knows him. We believe and we hope that somebody who actually knows this suspect that's in the video will be able to identify him for us.
Forgive me if you said this. Are you revealing where the DNA was found?
No.
Was it under fingernails?
No,
or
we're not going to reveal that.
That video is from Los Angeles.
That video is from,
After the assault.
yep, that is the suspect leaving the.
All right, Ed, I think we heard enough. I need your expertise on this. So, reporters just asking questions, and people in the chat are confused because we heard in the Rex Heuermann, in the Gilgo Beach murderer case that CODIS, his DNA couldn't be entered into CODIS legally in the state of New York until he was convicted of a crime. But when you look at the CODIS database, there's those elements of it where there's unknown DNA. And that's what we're dealing with here. We're not dealing with a situation where we have a perpetrator in custody. Correct, Ed?
That's correct. As I said, CODIS contains two databases. The one database is the known offender databases, and then the other is the unknown offender database from crime scenes. Okay, so they had that crime that occurred in Los Angeles first. Okay, and they gathered forensic DNA evidence and a profile and entered it into the crime scene CODIS database. Then this crime occurs in Maryland weeks later. They get a DNA profile involved in this crime scene investigation, and they put it in CODIS. They put it into both databases. Now, the one database with the offender, nothing hits. Right. So he is not in there. He doesn't have an arrest with a DNA profile in that database. Then in the unknown crime scene database, he matches the perp from Los Angeles. Okay, there's the connection. We don't have a name, but we have matching DNA from two different crime scenes from the West Coast and the East Coast. Now they're linked. Now we have a video from the West Coast that shows him exiting that. That's the only video they showed us. They may have more, and I hope they do. And if they do a search in the neighborhood, they may see his image in other videos, security camera videos. Right. They may see that he was on foot or that he was in a vehicle. They may have vehicle information. Now, we don't know how he got from the West Coast to the East Coast. I mean, he could have taken a plane. He could have taken Greyhound. He could have taken a train. He could have taken a vehicle. Okay. Right. So all of that will have to now be investigated and found out. Now, if he was monitoring the victim in Maryland's social media, and he was a part of the social media connection there, if there is a link, a family, or she accepted him as a viewer or whatever the case may be, and he was frequenting her shows or her content, every time you log into that, there's going to be a digital record, a forensic digital record that can be found. And so his cell phone, his computer, or whatever he used to link into her social media and communicate back and forth or to follow her, they'll track that down as well. So they need to go, they can start with her social media side, look at her computers and her cell phone and try to find this connection all right, with an IP address in California or whatever the case may be, that could link back to the Los Angeles area, if that is his base of operation, because we really don't know where he lives or what his base of operation is.
Right.
Now, I saw a lot of stuff in the chat about, you know, people are confused about, they saw the arm of the victim closing the door, and they didn't understand all this. Look, she's lucky to be alive. Okay, and thank God she's alive, because now we have an eyewitness that can give a description of this person, and that's where we get the male Hispanic from, and so forth, and we got the DNA. So
and that's the great part of this investigation, is that now there's multiple agencies on different coasts. You have the FBI, who's being asked to come into this investigation by the Maryland State Police and the Maryland the Sheriff's Department in Hartford. But the bottom line is LAPD, and on the South Central LA, where this crime took place in March, we're now going to be able to get together with those investigators and share notes and look at their whole. And you notice in both of these interviews that I'm going to play, they're being tight-lipped about it, and it's for a very good reason. We already heard about wild speculation from people who said that they witnessed, there was a guy, and I'm not going to play that, I'm not going to give him a platform, that, you know, she was beaten beyond recognition with a rock perhaps, and all this stuff. This is information that hurts an investigation, and we talk about this a lot, because just the only two people who know or should know about what happened to Rachel is the perpetrator himself and the investigator and the crime scene techs who were on the scene. And that's it. This stuff should not be out there. You're playing with somebody's, this is the difference between justice and no justice. So you can't just sit and sling this stuff out there just because it's sensational. You need to just keep that close to the vest and keep it quiet. The computer records, the phone records of hers are going to be very, very important. Because like you said, Ed, if he liked any of her videos or liked any of her pictures or sent her DMs on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, whatever she's on, the computer forensic experts, they are getting or have that information already, and they are going to be looking at every interaction that this girl has ever gotten in probably a 6-month or more period, going back to March.
Now they're going to also have to check the cell phone towers in and around the Los Angeles attack at the time of the attack, and see if they can isolate a specific phone here to that attack, and then cross-reference that phone, that IP address, everything from that phone to the victim in Maryland's social media information, and make those kind of connections. Now, I must say, it should dawn on everybody that this victim and her family out in Los Angeles needs to be protected 24/7 now.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because that perp is out there, and she saw his face. He left a victim alive that can potentially testify against him.
Right, and we saw that in the barbershop murder that our good friend from Faro Industries played for us. There was one surviving witness, and he was murdered 3 weeks later or 2 weeks later, putting his grandchild in the car seat in their driveway, and he was murdered by the perps who were outstanding. They didn't get arrested for a long period of time, so that was another case that, you know.
Now, there's also a lot of things they can do with that imagery. You know, they can isolate it, they can enhance it, they can try to get the facial features out there, and then they need to publicize this. They need to get this guy's face out there all over the networks in all over the country, to be quite honest with you, because obviously this guy can travel from the West Coast to East Coast like this.
Right.
So we got to get that face out there for all to see on our venue, on all the media, on America's Most Wanted, whatever. That face needs to get out there for everybody to see, because if this guy's transiting back and forth from the East Coast to the West Coast, he's going to make stops along the way in different states, maybe to get gas or get food or go to the bathroom, whatever the case may be. We need all the eyes out there looking for this guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Ed. I want to play the Colonel. He gave an interview right after again, I saw this I saw this press conference at 10 o'clock last night, my time, Eastern time. He was giving interviews right after it, and he went on to News Nation. He's on Banfield. And I want you guys to take a listen to this because she questions him about some of the things that all of us want answers to, and he really doesn't answer any of our questions. But let's take a listen. This is Colonel William Davis of the Harford County Sheriff's Office.
Press conference. He's the chief deputy of Harford County Sheriff's Office. Colonel, we were talking last night and you hinted that you were going to have some information very soon. It turned out it was within a matter of, well, it was within 24 hours. So I'm really glad to have you back tonight. Thank you for doing this. Is there anything else you can tell us about the man you showed in that video?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I could add. You did a pretty good description of everything we're trying to get out there. Especially the part where you said we're focusing a lot of our deployment, trying to make people feel safe on the Mom Pa Trail because that's where this crime occurred. However, he was in March, he was in California, and in August, he was here. It could be anywhere in the country right now, and he still may be here. So we're trying to get that video out as far out as we possibly can because we feel confident that if somebody knows him, if they're familiar with him, even though it's just a side and a back view of him, all the things you pointed out, his gait, the way he walks, all those things. If you know him, you're going to be able to identify him. And we're hoping that somebody will give us that information. And, last night, when I was talking.
One thing I noticed in that video, Ed, he wasn't running out of there like he was. He was stepping lively, but he didn't like go bolting out of there. And I'm hoping and praying, like we talked about earlier in the beginning, I'm hoping and praying that there was more surveillance along that street, more Ring video doorbells, LAPD, the responding jurisdiction. I'm sure that they did the canvas of all the surrounding homes and so forth. So they may have quite a bit more surveillance of him as he entered and exited that location. And we don't know.
Well,
we don't know if he went through a window. We don't know if he went through that door. Everyone's speculating, but go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, we don't know how he got in, but we definitely know how he got out.
Yeah.
Okay, and we definitely know that he wasn't wearing a shirt when he left. Okay, and it appears that his cell phone was in his right pocket of his pants as he was leaving. Now, again, I don't think he ditched his cell phone between this crime and the crime in Maryland. So again, search the cell phone towers. Yep. Search the cell phone towers in Los Angeles at the time of this crime. Search the cell phone towers in the location in Maryland at the location of that crime. See if you can find the phones that match.
Right. Great observation and great. This is what detectives do. This is the work that we do. Let's let the rest of this play because she asks some redundant questions, Banfield-esque. But she does ask important questions.
And some of the press conference questions I wanted to reach through the television and smack somebody in the head.
That's why I had to stop it because there was another 2 or 3 minutes of that and I couldn't stomach it anymore.
Information. And, last night when I was talking to you, go ahead.
She tried to cut him
Last night when I was talking to you, we had just received that video and we were trying to work our way through it and we were discussing it and the sheriff was adamant. He said, yeah, let's try to run down our investigation as best we can. But he was adamant, we need to get that video out as soon as possible. And then tonight was the time we were putting it out.
Well, I'm glad that we've got it tonight to show our viewers because we are a national program. So I'm not sure if I heard you correctly. We know about Los Angeles, about the assault there. We know about Rachel Morin's assault in Maryland. Do you know of any other locations or any other crimes where CODIS may have hit a DNA profile where he has been? Or do you have any suspicions of where else he's been?
No, that is the only locations we know for sure. But I mean, it's common sense that if he did an assault like that in California and then all the way across the country here, a few months later, he's doing another assault. I mean, chances are those aren't the only 2 times he was involved in an assault like that.
Can I ask you about the assault in California? Was it a sexual assault in California?
We're going to leave that to the Los Angeles Police Department to talk about their case. I can just say, like, kind of what I said in the press conference, that it was a home invasion and that he did assault a young girl in the house there.
And what age are we talking about? How old was the young girl in the house?
I don't want to talk about their victims, and I want to let them decide what they want to put out about that, honestly, at this point in time.
The only reason I ask is it might help with someone who might recognize that door, might know of a certain person at that house that fits that age description. I just anything that can help jar people's thoughts and memories as to who he might be and where he's leaving. They might know something about that location.
Is she an idiot or what?
Again, I think I got to leave that to Los Angeles.
Oh,
I know they're working on their
hell no.
case out there, and I don't want to say anything about their case. It's their case.
And who would help? Who would be
I
helped by
respect
that? I'm sorry. You've given up the victim and the victim's household.
Yeah.
Who would be helped by this?
Yeah. Disgraceful. But he does go on to say a couple of things that I want to play.
She was a lawyer, right? She was a lawyer.
I think she was an honorary lawyer. She studied. I don't even want to get into it because that opens up a whole nother can of garbage. But let's let the rest of this play. It's only in another minute.
Can you tell me about the DNA that you found at Rachel Morin's crime scene?
I don't really, because as we talked about the last couple of times I talked to you, we don't want to talk about where the evidence was recovered, what it was recovered from, because again, the suspect knows where we got that DNA, and we wanted to just be us and him and knows where that DNA came from until we get him in custody.
And I'd be remiss if I don't do my job by asking difficult questions like this next question, and that is, was Rachel sexually assaulted?
Yeah, again, I appreciate, you have to ask it, everybody does. But as we talked about, we don't want to say anything about what happened at that crime scene, because again, the suspect knows and we know at this point in time.
And do you think, Colonel, that Rachel knew her killer, or do you think this was truly a random selection?
Through our investigation throughout last night and today, when we got that video, we haven't been able to determine that she knew her. We are going under the belief that it was a unknown. He was unknown to her, and she was unknown to him, and it was a random attack there on the trail. So we're going with that. Just telling our citizens and our community to use caution when they're out in the community, not just on the trail, as we've talked about many times. Make sure you have your cell phone with you, but don't be engrossed in a cell phone. If you're going to wear headphones when you're out exercising, as many people do, don't have them turned up all the way where you can't hear what's around you.
How many times have we said that, Ed? I mean, we say this all the time. Be vigilant. Keep your head on a swivel. You say
watch your six. Yeah, stay prepared.
Stay prepared. This all falls into play. Again, the components and all of the things that this investigator, this is an executive. He's not investigating a crime, by the way. He's the executive in charge.
His people are.
Right. His people are. The detectives are, whether they know or not know, whether they know he was communicating with her or not know, they're not going to blurt it out here. So people, based on what he's saying, and people are being critical of this police executive, like, oh, how could he say that this she's not known to this perpetrator? He's not going to show his cards. He's not going to say, yeah, well, we have him texting her on this and this date, So that's,
well, first of all, they don't have a name. All
Right.
they have is a DNA profile. Okay. They don't have a name. They do know that it's a male Hispanic. Okay. Now, again, they got to find the linkage. They got to find the linkage between LA and Maryland. They got to find the cell phones. They got to find all this other data to see, what they can link. Okay. They got to search. They got to search social media. They got to search everything, and it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, 100%. I have a press conference that the sheriff, Jeff Gaylor, he put a presser out on August 9th. And I want to play this because he goes on their branded YouTube channel. This is the Harford County Sheriff's Office. So I want to play this. This is from the 9th, but he talks about misinformation. He talks about a couple of things, and also talks about public safety. So let's just take a listen to what he had to say. This is, again, older. This is August 9th. So I want to play this. And there is closed caption. I can't turn it on or shut it off. They have it on their site. So you'll see the closed caption.
Hi, this is Harford County Sheriff Jeff Gaylor. It's been 4 days since Rachel Morin went missing and 3 days since her body was located, the victim of a violent homicide. As your sheriff,
So here he says right away, a victim of a violent homicide, which leads everybody to now piggyback on what was reported by that the person who said that they found her. Again, they refute this and they say that in fact, they weren't the people who found her, but we're not here to argue that. But he says a violent assault here.
Sheriff, I wanted to update all of you on where the investigation stands and what we are doing to keep our citizens safe. Currently, there are 10 investigators assigned to our Criminal Investigations Division who have been and will continue to work around the clock on this investigation. These detectives, along with forensic investigators and crime analysts, have been scouring every detail of the days, hours, minutes, and seconds before Rachel died in order to put together the pieces of a comprehensive timeline. Our Harford County community, as usual, has been amazing. And again, I knew you would be. It's what makes me the most proud when our citizens step up and work together in times of need. Through you, our Facebook page and reach has gone over 2 million people. You have brought forth more than 100 tips, and they are still pouring in. Some of your tips have been promising and tremendous in advancing the investigation and bringing us closer to getting the answers that we need, the answers that Rachel's family needs, and the answers that our community needs. Each tip helps bring the picture into focus, so I ask you to keep sending them in. Even if it's something you think is insignificant, that might be the key piece of evidence or information we are looking for. I also know many of you are nervous to spend time on the trail, concerned that there might be someone in our midst preying on women. Please know that as your sheriff, but also as a husband and father of 2 daughters, I understand your fears. If you went out to the trail today, you will see a heavy presence of deputies patrolling by foot, by bike, and by all-terrain vehicle. To enhance our efforts, just yesterday morning, the Harford County Sheriff's Foundation dropped off a check for $20,000 to support the purchase of a second off-road utility vehicle. This will fill an immediate need to have an off-road utility vehicle at each end of the trail, and these proactive patrols will continue into the future in an effort to keep everyone safe who utilizes our hiking trails. I understand many of you want answers, and we do too. What I can tell you for sure is this was an intentional taking of a person's life. Please know we are holding details close to help ensure a suspect is brought to justice. There will be a time when I can share more, and when we can, I promise to answer as many of your questions as I can. It's a delicate balance to help the public stay informed, but it cannot be at the expense of a quality investigation. One question we have continued to get centers around whether we have interviewed the boyfriend in this case. The answer is yes, we have, along with many other people who are close to Rachel. That is the way an investigation is conducted. We start with people who are in her close inner circle and others who have may known her or she have encountered and work outward. Please be safe to take care of each other. Watch out for each other. Together, we will solve this crime and find the heinous coward who took Rachel Morin from her family and friends.
Well, that was a great video, and that was put out on August 9th. So it's already almost 10 days later. It's the 18th now. Ed, there was a question on there, and then I want to get back to a couple of points that he brought up here. Unsolved crimes uncovered. She says, Ed Wallace, can you explain how they were able to determine the suspect's race? Also, how can we know that the DNA ties back to that home on the footage? Is there is this where the initial DNA came from? Thank you.
Well, that was the scene of the crime in Los Angeles, of the home. It was a home invasion and an assault. Now, a home invasion is a violent act. Okay, it's if it's being labeled a I believe it was labeled a home invasion robbery. But if it was labeled a home invasion, that is not a voluntarily letting the suspect into your house. Okay, because that is a specific criminal charge, home invasion robbery. Okay, or home invasion, and with there comes criminal trespass, breaking and entering, all these types of things. And from the witness account, you get the initial race of the suspect. When the victim is interviewed, that's where that question will come up. Well, plus they have the video, and coupled with the interview of the victim, they would come up with that. Now, can we get race and sex information, eye color, hair color, all that information from DNA? Yes, but it's typically not the DNA used for CODIS. Okay, that's typically not done for that. All right. I remember, when we first started CODIS, they said, oh, we're going to use the junk DNA, as it was called at the time, the junk DNA. Okay. But can we get all of that information from DNA? Absolutely. Yeah. We can get ethnicities, we can get race, we can get hair color, eye color, sex, right. All of that can be obtained. But it's typically not done in the CODIS DNA.
That's important to know, and thank you for your answering Unsolved Crimes Uncovered's question in detail. Ed, you and I have said this so many different times and in so many different ways. What we do here is from an educational standpoint, from a police detective's perspective. In no way, shape, or form are we trying to compromise any investigations by putting out information, even if we get sensitive information, which occasionally we do get from sourced information. We don't put it out. We wait and let the investigators do what they have to do. And at the same time, we respect the victims' families, the victims, first and foremost, their families, and the community. There is a community here in both Maryland and everywhere in between Maryland and South Los Angeles that's in fear. And every woman and every man should be in fear, because this brutal murderer is on the loose. He's out there. And it's not just him. Crime knows no boundaries. There's probably hundreds, arguably thousands of other potential killers that could be walking amongst us. And I don't want to say this to cause fear or have people get into a panic or cause anxiety, but that's the harsh reality, that we have these bad men and women who walk amongst us. And that is why you have to be vigilant and steadfast. You have to know what's going on around you and not bury your head into your phones, and keep yourself safe at all times. I carry my gun when I cut my grass. How about that? Now, people say to me, well, why do you need to do that? Why do you have to stick your gun in the small of your back while you're cutting your front lawn? Well, guess what? If I need to have that and I need to protect myself or anybody that's around me, and I'm legally able to carry it, I'm going to have it. But Ed, getting back to the DNA and the forensics, this is multifaceted. As we spoke, you talk about the computer and forensics that they're going to do, not just on her phone, but her boyfriend's phone. It was proven through this DNA that we have here. And, law enforcement said, we interviewed him early on because they start from the inner circle. Her mother, her father, sisters, her brothers, her aunts, her uncles, her boyfriend, all of those are in that inner circle. Early on, our social media and our internet folks who watch these cases were pointing the finger at the boyfriend. But we now know through this CODIS hit and the DNA at the crime scene that it was in fact not him. He had nothing to do with it. So it's always a good thing to kind of just take some of the information and let it just sit. Let it sit. Not point that finger and not go and jump on the pile. Just because everybody's pointing a finger at somebody doesn't mean that you have to just join in on that. And Ed, I know you and I talked about this before we went live, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I understand that, because just statistically, it's usually in a case like this, it's usually the boyfriend or a husband. Okay, that's the statistics. But in this case, you would be 100% wrong, as we see now. Now, I also want to add something else here about statutes of limitation. While there's no statutes of limitation on a homicide, there are statutes of limitation on a home invasion robbery, on assault, on sex crimes. Okay. Now, what they can do now in Los Angeles, at least, is they can indict the DNA profile. So this way, it stops the clock on the statutes of limitation. So whenever they find this perp, he can be held accountable for that crime in Los Angeles. Let's say he flees the country and he stays out of law enforcement hands for years. Well, then the statutes of limitation on that case, if they don't indict the DNA, would mean that we couldn't prosecute him once we found him. Okay, so if we indict the DNA now, he will be held responsible no matter when we catch him.
Do you feel that that's something that they will do, indict the DNA?
They should do it. There's no reason they can't do it. You just walk into a grand jury, present the case, okay, have the witness testify, show the forensic analysis and the DNA and the CODIS hit, boom, indicted.
Right, right. And that's something that may be coming down the pipeline in the near future in this case, because I know, and you know, that there are multiple detectives from multiple agencies. Now we know they reached out to the FBI. The family attorney who's representing Rachel Morin's family, her and her family, and don't forget, she has 5 children, you know, not adults. She has 5 kids. Richard Tobin, the boyfriend, we talked about, he's cleared, but we want to hear from the attorney, Joseph Murtha. Unfortunately, he did the interview with Banfield, so we're going to have to listen to that again. But I want the audience to hear what the attorney has to say as it pertains to the family and how thankful the family are for people supporting them. So let's take a listen to that. And we'll get back to explain about the indicting of the DNA again. Ed pretty much covered it, but we'll circle back to that again because there seems to be still some confusion in the chat.
Rachel Morin, he's kind enough to join us live. Mr. Murtha, thank you for being here. Obviously, the first question, the most important question, how is Rachel's family doing and her 5 children?
Well, first, I want to thank you for allowing us to speak on behalf of Rachel's family and particularly to a national audience, as you've indicated. They're grieving. They have had an incredible loss. Rachel was a very dedicated mother, a dedicated daughter, sister, and very involved in everyone's life. And so they're struggling at this point. They just recently had the service for Rachel, and now they're moving on from grieving to wanting to embrace her energy and her spirit by having 2 public events. One is going to be a Trail of Flowers walk on the Ma and Pa Trail, and the other one's going to be a celebration of life for her at a church that she attended.
Right, and that's this weekend. We'll make note of that as well a little later in the program. What was their reaction to this news that the DNA strike on Rachel's crime scene matched a crime scene in Los Angeles where a young girl was assaulted in this home invasion we're showing on the screen again?
It gives them hope. The fact that there's evidence, scientific evidence that can be pursued, and particularly the thing that really brings them hope is that with a national audience, just like we have tonight, that there is somebody out there that knows this person. And they're asking that share the information who it is, have some humanity, recognize that this loss has caused incredible pain to lots of people, and tell someone who that person is.
There's been a lot of discrepancy in reporting on this crime. There was a witness who said he was part of the search party that found Rachel, and he described the scene as quite dire, that she was completely naked and that she was beaten to a point where she was almost unrecognizable. And, you know, it's hard to get that clarified. Can I ask you if you know what the facts are and if that comports with the facts of this case?
The family has stayed removed from the information that's being disseminated either on social media or even through law enforcement so that they can be supportive of one another and particularly of Rachel's children. So they have avoided the specifics at this time because they're really focused on how are we going to help one another, how are we going to help Rachel's children.
Understand. Did they think that Rachel knew this person, or like the Colonel, do they think this was a random attack?
They believe what the Colonel has indicated, that this was a random attack. Rachel, I don't think, had any enemies, and she had lots of friends. And so sadly, this was a person who randomly picked her out for what a horrific crime it was.
Well, and the colonel just made news as well by saying that her boyfriend, Richard Tobin, very new boyfriend, is out of the realm of suspicion at this point. Was there a time the family thought it might be him? Because that's typically how investigations begin, with people closest to the victims.
The thing about this family is that they didn't want to cast aspersions upon anyone. They wanted to be supportive of law enforcement and cooperate, but they weren't going to interject their opinions of who may or may not have done it. They're allowing law enforcement to do that job, and as a result of it, have stayed away from that.
I want to show that video one more time. I'm going to ask our control room to run the pictures of the suspect in the California home invasion. There it is again, with that description. Let me read the description again. Low to mid-20s.
Hey, and Ed, that was a good catch with the cell phone lighting up in his pocket. And we know from our cell phone expert, Tiffany Leonard, that they could do the geofencing and they could look at all of the cell phones that were pinging at that particular time, because I'm sure on that video there's a timestamp, whether it's a Ring, video doorbell, or whatever, and they're able to look at and pinpoint some of the cell phones that were pinging in that area. So
not only
go ahead.
not only can they do that, they can do what's called photogrammetry from that video. They'll take a still of the photo. They'll take a still from the video, and they can then get the suspect's actual height, okay, and get that from the known measurements of the door, the known measurements that are in that video of those objects, and from that, the computer will tell you the exact height of that suspect. And in addition to, now I was, I've seen some information in the chat, but I didn't get there. I was going to get to it. That the next step with the DNA is to search the law enforcement friendly genetic databases, okay, and looking for familiar connections.
Get match.
With this DNA profile, that so that we can get a name, a last name. We can get a last name here, and then from there, the actual name of the suspect.
What's your thoughts on Ortham Labs? I've reached out to the husband and wife team. They agreed eventually to come on the show with us, but that's the lab who was instrumental in identifying Jane Doe number 7, and also that's Karen Vergata, and also Brian Kohlberger in the Kohlberger case. Do you think that the FBI and these two agencies will reach out to that lab and ask for their assistance, Ed?
Can't hurt. Okay, it definitely can't hurt. They have a success record second to none. And as I know, they only take cases where they know for sure they're going to be able to get an ID. Okay, right. And they have a high success rate.
Yeah, I foresee them, if they haven't been already reached out to now, sometime in the future, them being on this case. So a lot of people in the chat have donated to that lab. They're doing really great work, and I can't wait to have either the husband or the wife or both of them on this show to talk about their company and the success that they've had. You could go over to their website. I'll link it in the description. This is a case that has a lot of moving parts, and forensically the forensics is going to play a huge part in the successful prosecution of this savage beast. This is a evil monster who is walking amongst us free right now. We don't know where he is, at least the general public. We don't know if the investigators know where he is, because I feel that if they did have an idea, they would be pouncing on this guy forthwith. So a dangerous, dangerous situation, one of many dangerous people that arguably walk amongst us every day. Ed, I want to thank you for taking out an hour time. You're in another country. You're in a different time zone, 7 hours ahead of us. Your your insight and your knowledge in this area with crime scene preservation, crimes evidence collection. You worked in the forensic lab with Barbara Butcher in the New York City Medical Examiner's Office. The knowledge that you provide to us is invaluable. So we greatly appreciate you coming and taking the time out. You're doing Army training over there, and you're busy. So we greatly appreciate it. Ed, I wanted to get your final words on where you think this case is going. We're going to stick with it. What are your thoughts on what's next in Rachel's case here?
Well, like I said, hopefully they'll get the cell phone data information. Then they'll get a cell phone provider. Then they'll get a name from that account. They'll get warrants, get all this information, track the movements, figure out how we got from Los Angeles to Maryland. See if there is any connection between victim and suspect in Maryland via social media, internet, whatever the case may be. Go through, send the DNA for familial analysis, search the genetic law enforcement friendly databases that are available to LE, and see if we can't find, that we have to try all avenues here to get this person quickly identified. Get the images over to the FBI, have it enhanced, see if we can get face, and get that face plastered all over the nation. Be on the lookout for this guy and get this. Now, if he's following the case, he might know now they're onto him and they made the connection between the two cases. He know we left a live victim in Los Angeles. We got to protect her family, and he may be on the run now. He may be looking to flee the country.
Right.
Okay. Let's get him indicted with his DNA profile out in Los Angeles. Stops the clock on the statutes of limitation for the crimes out there. There is no statutes of limitation for homicide. So he can be indicted at any time for the homicide attack in Maryland and be held responsible no matter where where or when we arrest him.
And you said it really well, Ed, when you mentioned there is a live victim, albeit it is a teenager. We don't know her age. But there is a victim and their family who is out there, and they have to be petrified. Nobody knows where this guy's whereabouts are. And I feel that police protection or them not feeling safe in this dwelling, as shown here, they got to be very frightened. Ed, I can't let the audience go without hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRon. Questions. Do you mind taking 5 minutes of questions from the audience, Ed?
Sure. I just want to say one more thing too before we get to the questions.
Sure.
What I saw on that show was totally irresponsible. Okay. There's no reason that those kind of horrific details needed to be aired. And I don't understand it. I don't agree with it. And I think it's ethically inappropriate and and unnecessary, and for the victim's family, totally insensitive.
I agree, and the press has their stories that they have to get out, and they don't, as much as they want to say that they have empathy and they care about the victims and their families. I mean, some of them do, but a great deal of them, the producers who are behind it and the people who are in the control room, they have a job to do, and unfortunately, that's not what we do here. But we see this, we report on it, and it is what it is. So again, thank you for that, Ed, because we emphasize all the time to support the victims and their families, because nobody knows what they're going through and the horror. These 5 children are now motherless. Their mom is gone since August 5th, 18 days. It's horrific. So a lot of people are saying thank you. Typical media. New Jersey, Robin says, Ed Wallace, I so agree with you and Ron on this one. And we echo this. This sentiment is echoed on every one of our live streams. People are going to come up with their theories and their thoughts and finger pointing and news groups and Facebook groups. I really don't go into those much because it's just a whole toxic bowl of I like to call it feces and urine. It's like it's like a toilet bowl. So I don't like to get into that. But Ed, did you see anything in the chat? Because I know the chat was going quick. Any questions, put in the chat, #Ed or #DutyRon. Here's one from Papa Smurf, the OG. He says, #Ed, your expertise is amazing. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So we're looking for questions. We're opening this up. I wanted to do like a small community, kind of like a little bit of a conversation with the community, but with the bandwidth that we have here, I don't want to squeeze it with you and lose a connection. So I'm just trying to look at the chat. I don't see any #Eds, but let's say hello to some of the people. Katina, thank you for being here. Saying hello to the Pranzos. Lieutenant Pete and his wife are always here. Here's one, #DutyRon. How many agencies will band together to find him? Well, we now know that local police, which is, again, there's a small police department in that general area in Bel Air. They responded initially. Then you have the sheriff's office. So that's 2. Bless you, Ed. If that's a cough, take it easy. We know that the sheriff's office, 2 sheriff's departments, the state police, that's 3, the FBI, that's 4. You have LAPD, that's 5. So 5 that we could think of at this point right now. What do you got, Ed?
Well, I got a question from Kurt. He said, Ed, what happens if the suspect dumps his cell phone? Well, at this point, if he dumps it, it's too late. You know, if he's been using the service on both of these crime scenes at the time, the connection to him and will be made, hopefully. If he dumps it now, bad for us, you know, in terms of tracking, trying to find him. But again, I'm pretty sure, as Ron said, there's going to be the feds are going to get involved, the marshals will get involved, try to track him down. The FBI, there's a lot of interstate movement going on here. So there'll be a lot of different law enforcement agencies on the lookout for this character.
Here's another one, Ed, for you. #Ed. Do you think that the suspect will be found soon? #Ed.
If he's not fully up to speed on what we know about what he did, I'm thinking yes.
Here's another one from Rachel, Ed. I'm rapid firing these. #you and I. I'm wondering, do you think he will shave his head and change his appearance, which will make it more difficult to find him? I say absolutely.
Again, this and the cell phone are pretty much the same thing. If he's aware that we're on to him, if he's been following the news as to these broadcasts about the crimes that he's committed, then he knows we're on to him. He might do these types of things.
Olana says, just a hashtag. Do you think we'll see a drawing, artist rendering of this guy?
I think we're more apt to get an actual photograph of his face before we'll get a sketch.
Yeah, absolutely. New Jersey Robin says, I feel like they're exploiting the victims for a story. Isn't that how it always goes in these cases, Ed?
Yeah, there was no reason for her to give that kind of graphic details. It was all sensationalizing, clickbait, and totally unnecessary. You know, I always say this. You got to follow the shoe on the other foot test. If you wouldn't like it done to you or your family, then don't do it to anybody else.
Exactly. And my good friend Tori Hartman used to always say, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. And I love that really simple statement. Again, put yourself, as Ed says, in the shoes of this victim's family. They don't want to hear this garbage. They don't, if in fact it's even true that that's something horrific, that such a horrific, violent act occurred against their daughter. Do you think the mom and dad or the children, the teenage children, want to see or hear that right now? They're just trying to get through this. #Ed, do you think he looks like a military dude? I can't tell from that.
I wouldn't venture to guess that. You know, I mean, could he be? Yeah, but I mean, there's many people that have that kind of appearance and never served a day in their life.
Yeah. So here's one for me. What's the difference between a home invasion and a breaking in and entering? They're kind of one and the same, but home invasion is, when someone that comes in and ties people up and perhaps or perhaps secures people that are in the home and, either victimizes sexually the victims or assaults multiple victims. But I don't think, Ed, you want to add to that?
Well, a B&E, we don't typically have that charge in New York. We have a burglary and we have criminal trespass. Now, a burglary is when you enter into a location without the permission or authority of the homeowner, and that's usually by creating criminal mischief, by breaking something to get in, and then once inside, you then ransack the place and steal property where no victim is at home. Okay, the victim is elsewhere. Okay, whereas a home invasion robbery, typically there is a victim at home. You broke into the location without the permission or the authority of the owner, and then you assaulted somebody inside, committed other crimes to that victim while they were inside, and potentially stole their property as well.
Yeah. Thanks for that extra on there, Ed. Wendy Lumbert says, Ed, nice haircut. Thank you. I got a shave yesterday. She says, Ed, nice haircut. When's the next step? When the next step will be doing the genealogy to identify? When do you think the next step?
They should have already started on it. And as soon as they got that hit with no name from 2 different crime scenes, the next step with the DNA was to go into those databases.
Yeah. And we answered Rachella's question about changing his appearance. This is similar. This is typically what we see once someone sees their face on national television. You can get somebody that could utilize wigs, shave their facial hair, completely go into hiding mode. And that's what we could see here, So Colleen's asking about the Parabon Nanolabs. I want to put that on the screen, Ed. That's okay. No problem.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
What was that now?
Just go ahead. I got it. We'll handle this one, Ed.
Okay. Would familial DNA testing be limited in value since he's Hispanic according to LE? No. We're looking for a last name. We're trying to see who he's related to. Okay. So that we can narrow that suspect now down, and we'll see if we can find somebody with that same last name having a criminal record of some kind, non-DNA criminal record somewhere in the United States, or maybe even in a foreign country, depending on their immigration status.
Yeah. Here's the Colleen question that you took off, Ed. How about Parabon and Nanolabs?
What about it? I'm sorry.
We haven't seen any reward posted. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Ed, for the comedy. Yes. What about it? We don't know. What do you want to know about it? DutyRon, has a reward been posted? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anything. But I will listen. I just got on to really looking at this case last night, and I was coming off of anesthesia, so I really didn't get a chance to deep dive into it. Ed and I are going to start looking at this case we're going to look into it with a fine-tooth comb, and we're going to cover it as things progress, but we're not going to give you sensationalism. We're not going to twist the truth. A lot of people like to hear the truth twisted. I don't know why. Why does everybody like to hear the oohs and ahs and the fictitious made-up stories, or stories that people want to believe is true? I don't get it. I don't know. Heather Whatever is giving me a compliment on my haircut. Thank you. Yeah, so Parabon does the same thing as Ortham Labs.
I mean, so that's another choice they could choose, if they wish to have additional genetic workup done.
Yeah.
For familiar DNA searches. But I don't think that it's necessary at this point. I think they have the genetic materials that they could utilize to enter into the other databases.
Right. Kurt Roulette says, ask Rex Heuermann about what DNA will do to nail you.
Okay, Ron, my internet is getting a little wonky.
All right, let's end it. All right, so on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we want to say thank you to the replay viewers, the channel members, the folks who left super thanks and super chat. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe. All things DutyRon on social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Ed and I aren't swinging from poles on TikTok. We're showing you YouTube content that we're doing. So follow us on all social media. One word, DutyRon. Check out our new merch shelf, which is down below. You could see blood spatter, not blood splatter. There's a whole bunch of Edisms on cups and T-shirts and Ed doesn't even know about it yet. But guess what? We've got Ed merch. It's out there.
I noticed. I went to your website and looked at the merch.
It's our website, Ed. Get it right.
Okay.
On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we want to say thank you. But as I always say, and Ed's got something to say at the end, I want to just send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to not only Rachel Morin's family, her children, extended family, the people who are friends, the community, the law enforcement agencies, and all of the men and women in these multiple agencies working from one side of the United States to the other to bring this animal into, and he's not even, you can't even call him animal, he's a savage beast, to bring this brutal murderer to justice. So on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we send prayers and strength to them. Ed, I know you got something to say.
Yeah, folks, please. First, prayers to the families of both victims, and for the safety of the victim in Los Angeles. Keep them safe. Also, be safe, be prepared, and watch your six. Always.
Good night from New York City. And where are you?
Good night from Kurdistan.
Kurdistan. Woof. Be careful, Ed.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep down low. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, guys. Peace and love.